me hit pause, start that. And why does it continue to do that to me? And I think you're already seeing my screen, so I think I just need to move this off here. And, all right, just one more time. Do you see my slides? Yeah, your name. Yeah, touch. Yes. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. For those who don't know me, my name's Jeffrey Scott, and I've got a lot of emails, but the email that I'm using these days is marketmripro@gmail.com. We'll talk about my top-down trader. Thanks for joining me. I've got a bunch of friends here live listening in. Appreciate that as well. And what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about what I saw in the market today, what I think about it, and then really go through the how I use Market MRI Pro, and I'm going to actually show other products today too. I mean, I'm going to try and show you what I do, what I use, and we'll look at the product and trade station as well. I'll show you a couple other things I like and some of the things that I use during the day. Today was interesting, to say the least. Everything I do is for education, not investment advice. The intent of the videos are to teach people how to do top-down trading, which is how I trade. Trading involves risk. You alone are solely responsible for any investment decisions you make. I may own or intend to buy or sell anything I talk about. Trading stocks and options should be considered risky. You should always consult with your financial advisors. And I have tools in multiple platforms. Obviously, I'm very, what's the word? I'm biased towards the one that Praveen built for me because it basically built all the tools into one product, which makes my life much easier. But each tool, probably each product has probably pros and cons. Yeah, most of you are probably members of my top-down trader group. It's how I communicate. And when I put something out on YouTube, it's the way you find out because I send it to the group. And every once in a while, when I'm not trying to recruit for a live meeting or something, I will not send them to YouTube every day, and I'll do some just in the top-down trader group. So all you got to do is go to Google Groups, sign in with your Google ID, click all groups, find the ones you want to join, top-down trader, and tell me how you want to be contacted. And I am trying to recruit for this. Look, when I decided to have the meeting, I knew that I'd have the meeting whether I make money or lose money. I don't care. Um, if I had, and I was just hoping to have enough people in the room so it felt, you know, you don't want to be in front of one person. So right now we're tracking about 5 in the room and 2 online. So I know I'm not going to lose money on the meeting, and that's great. But even if I was to lose money, it doesn't matter. I will be recording the meeting and I share my PowerPoints. Unless John person has energy left after his meeting and wants to come over and talk for a couple hours, it'll be just me, and I hope Praveen will be there as well. So if you haven't signed up and you're interested, whether it be there live or online, it's at the Marriott in Palm Beach Gardens. It's actually, I've never, to be honest, I never even went there before because it's an old property. And in the past, I've done the Hilton Garden Inn. But I decided to go look at the Marriott because it's full service with restaurants and more things to do. And it's been redone. They redid it during COVID, and it's really nice. And I'm going to switch my meetings there probably. So it'll be 2 full days. John's are Friday and Saturday, October 25th and 26th. He is at the Hilton Garden Inn. Now, if I knew he was there, I probably would have stayed there to make it more convenient. But at the time that I set this up, I decided he was going to be doing it at his golf club in the clubhouse. So I figured I'd just do it at the Marriott. Um, $400 rebate towards any of my tools. I should put an asterisk. I'll have some latitude on Metastock pricing, but not that much. And the things that and wealth charts, I have no latitude on. Um, Cost is $12.50, and I feed you. And anybody that's been to my meetings know you gain weight. So on Sunday and Monday is my meeting, the 26th, or excuse me, 27th and 28th. I have lunch and breakfast and then snacks in between those and after lunch. There'll be coffee and sodas and waters all day long on Sunday and Monday. Um, one of the most favorite thing I did in the past was I took a bunch of folks the next day out on my boat. I have a much nicer boat now, and it even comes with a captain and a stewardess or steward. I'm not being sexist. Who knows what we'll have that day? The captain's full time. The hand who is we hire when we're going out, so I don't have to do anything, and it will be catered, so it'll be a lot of fun for those that are live. It'll be a lot of fun. Um, if the number looks like it's going to stay in the low single digits, then I may elect to have the boat take us to my partner's restaurant. My business partner has a restaurant that his partner is Michael Jordan. It's pretty nice, and they got a dock. And if it's only 4 or 5 of us going, then I may just do that. No loss. You'll be on the boat, and then you'll get a great dinner. One way or the other, you will go home full. And then if you have information, just reach out to me at any of my thousands of different emails. I answer all of them. So as I said, I'm going to start with a market review. And you know what? There's changes today. The market's different today than it was yesterday. It's, many people, not just me, have been talking about what's likely happening. I was talking with Gallardi, one of the old HGSIers, over the weekend via chat, and he talked about how he'd bought a bunch of puts already and was getting out of the market. Those Hindenburgs I take serious, and I hopefully I say that loud enough on my videos. So we'll do the market review. I want to show you my workflow. I'm using Market MRI Pro, but also using other tools that you'll see. And then I'll answer whatever questions you have and then give you some updates on what's coming next. Praveen has been very busy of late, not making excuses. It's just the way the world works. If Praveen was relying on this program to support his family and pay for education of his two his twins that just started college, he'd be in big trouble. So he has a day job, as do I. And he's moved, and his kids are starting school. So I haven't been putting too much pressure on him, but we've got a bunch of things coming, which I'll talk about. And frankly, a lot of them are based upon the things that I built into HGSI, which I still use and love, and how that stuff, how I can how I can make my life easier is the key. And again, I hope you realize I talk about HGSI all the time. I still use it, and the challenge I had with HGSI was I it was so hard to grow the user base when I would introduce people to it and teach them because of the learning curve. So I think Market MRI tool is easier. That's not to say there's that you couldn't do almost everything inside of that little old program with the little banner HGSI. News and earnings, I talk about this every night so I don't forget. Um, Wednesday doesn't look like much because who really cares about the FOMC minutes? We know there were two dissenters that wanted to cut. Powell didn't want to cut. We heard that when he spoke. I think that the big news tomorrow, and I don't know if it's before, during, or after the market, but his Jackson Hole speech is being released tomorrow. And if you look at last year, he talked about a lot of things, but he really didn't talk about the current, what the plans were. Because I think many people will be listening to see if he talks about are they going to cut? I think it's about 85% on the Fed futures. The predictor think there's going to be a cut. Will it be 25 or 50? I can't imagine it will be 50. But after that PPI, you got to balance the PPI too hot, jobs and sentiment kind of too weak. He's put in a bad position because if I think back to when I was much younger, um, lots of inflation and weakening economy is that horrible thing called stagflation. Horrible for the stock market. Horrible for the stock market. So I don't envy Powell, and as much as our president, and this isn't the political statement, likes to beat him up from the pulpit, um, that's a tough job. I'm not even sure what the right answer is to be. I think that PPI really threw some proverbial, what do you call it? Flaws in the ointment, flies in the ointment, whatever it is. The other thing is we still will get another CPI and PPI, I think, believe, before the Fed meets. The earnings were slowing down. Most of the things that announced, well, there are a lot of things that announced tonight that were down, like Toll Brothers initially was down a bit. When I looked at the futures before I came on, and especially after a day like today, you wonder, you know, the three words, will they, three words, buy the dip? And right now the futures are pretty flat. The Dow's up 16 points, the Nasdaq's down 14 points, the spiders are down 50 cents, and the Russell's up 50 cents. So very, very flat on the futures. So that doesn't tell me anything about tomorrow. And we still have big earnings. Target tomorrow, Walmart on Thursday. I've got a position in Walmart still, and I'll have to decide what to do with it. Oh, I forgot to open something up. Hold on one second. Oh yeah, I got the chat. All right. Any questions you have, pop them into the meeting chat, and I'll answer them as we go. I want this to be interactive, especially when we get into the program. And as I like to say, it's a judgment call to hold stocks over earnings dates. It's bad judgment to not know when your stock's earnings date is scheduled. And believe me, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this and how much of an edge you think you have. I had planned on getting out of SE. That has been a stock I've been in since, well, December, maybe before December, and it had pulled back recently and it was going into earnings, and I forgot to sell it. And then the earnings surprise to the upside. I was like, thank God, but I had an equal chance of getting obliterated. And so I have learned to pay attention to earnings dates, and I knew the date was there. Just 4 o'clock came up before I had a chance to make my move. Here is one of the late breaking news. Those that were in the Orange County meeting in June know that we put together a series of stocks that were leaders at the time. And when we did it, it was probably around right here. And what we had was a nice uptrend. Well, that big move was about over. And we've continued in an uptrend until recently when it started to have a bit of a rounding top. And I've been reluctant to say that this index had broken down because it kept living on the 50. And even though it had come down some, even yesterday I said along the lines that it's sort of broken down, and I had a question mark on the slide, but it was up today, and let's see if it can get back above the 50 soon. It did not. So as far as I'm concerned, there's only one thing redeeming positive factor out there on this index, and that's pulled into its chandelier and hasn't broken it. But I use this to tell me that, hey, when the leaders start to break down, maybe it's time to get out before the rest of the market breaks down. So I'm going to put this in the bear camp. I mentioned the different platforms. Metastock will be coming out as soon as I sign off on it, and hopefully we'll do that this weekend. It's all done. I got to sign off on the manual. Are there things in it that you can't do in Market MRI Pro? Well, at least I get automatic trend lines in it. I mean, Sagar has the best automatic trend lines. Metastock has their own auto trend lines. And I'd kill to have good auto trend lines in Market MRI Pro, but Metastock will have it. And I have them all, obviously. I end up using a lot of HGSI, the trade station stuff. Why? Because I just said the name, Sagar. I can combine Sagar stuff with my stuff there. And then the Market MRI Pro tool. And we'll see where Metastock falls. What is a chandelier and how do I interpret? Harold, that is a great question. And I'm sorry if I used your name and I wasn't supposed to. How the most important thing to me in a trade is knowing when to get out. So when to get in, how much to buy, what am I buying, and when do I want to leave the party? So when I look at a stock to buy, And what was it, Irene? There was one this week. I think it was, I can't even remember these things anymore. Yeah. I talked about this one, and of course it was great. I bought it, and today it tanked out and hit my stop, and it's gone. Um, when I buy something, I like to buy when it takes out a level. I am a I am a buy it when it moves up and takes the trade. That way I could put a buy order in when I go to work. And what happened with IREN, and I mapped this out during the video I did that night, I'm going to buy it when it trades above the high of the day. So opened up here, traded lower, and then I got filled during the day as it rallied. And I also knew going in where my stop was going to be. And I have the way I usually approach the stop is if I can be within 8%, I usually look at the low of the last 4 days. In the case here, I looked at this dotted line here, which is the chandelier, and said it was too far to the last 4 days. So I'm going to put my stop right below the chandelier on that time. So um, it got taken out. So I put my stop on. Now, how do I manage my stops? The first stop that I use is a fixed stop. I decide that I'm willing to risk 4, 6, 8% on any trade. I look at the stock chart. If there's a major moving average, if there's obvious support, those are great places to put a stop underneath. If I don't have that, maybe I'll look at, as I said, the lowest of the last 4 bars and put my stop below that. And I'm only interested in this thing if it goes higher. So my buy stop is above the close by a nickel. I immediately put my sell stop. Now let's say that I got lucky, and let's go pretend we bought it back here, and pretend I had my buy stop was above the high of that candle, and I got filled on this bar. I don't always get filled the next day. My initial stop probably would have been down. What is it? Would have been one somewhere in this area here, and as long as that was within 8% or so, I would have been happy. When the stock starts to move up, I also put a target on. I don't know if I had a target here or not. And typically I'll put a target in a market that I think is dangerous, probably almost equal to what my risk is. In a market that I'm excited about because I think it's going much higher, maybe I'll put it 2 times what the risk is. And what I'll do is when I hit that target, let's say this target was here, if I hit this target, I'll probably take half off and I'll move my stop up to where I bought it. And when I've done that, I've put money in the bank. And unless I gap down and trade below and open up down here, I'll get closed out on the remaining half at what I paid for it. All right, so let's say I did that. And let's say the stock keeps going up. Eventually, I don't want to have my stock down here when the price is up here. I want my stop to trail up. So there are a number of trailing stops. So at some point, I will take off the fixed stop, which I move to here, and I will put on a stop that moves up with the stock price. You could have a trailing stop that's 8%, 6%, and those are standard stops. You could have a trailing stop that's $4. That's $4 less than the price, and it will continue to trail up and will never get lower. And when the stock trades down and hits the stop, you're stopped out. The chandelier is an ATR based trailing stop that will trail up the price. And typically, the way I use it is if I close below the chandelier, and these are all white candles and open, which means I closed at the higher part, and I closed up. This was a potential stop, and I would have gotten stopped out because I closed below the bottom of the chandelier. So I don't have to set it every day. It automatically runs up. Now, I don't always follow what I just preached. Once I have a big gain in a stock, I will leave the chandelier painting on the stock as it is here. And when I see this first close below, now remember, I'm not putting a chandelier on until I'm fat with profits. I've already taken profits off. I've gained at least another R, the distance between my buy price and the resistance. I put on a chandelier, and after the stocks move 10, 15, 20%, I don't want to get stopped out on a day that looks like this, where you get this bottoming tail that takes out all the stops and the stock closes higher. So what I ultimately will do is I will take off the dealer stop. I will look at the chart every night. And when I saw that, if I was in, I wasn't in, I would have taken a stop and I would have put a stop in at my dealer, a nickel below the price of the candle on this day. Why? Well, it's too late for me to sell because it's after hours. Remember, I work all day. If the market's selling off and I'm doing this, I'll be taken out right away. But what if the market gaps up tomorrow and they buy the dip? I haven't seen that line until I got over here, and I could have actually kept the stock longer and got out up here. So I will manage that if I'm fat with profits manually. But my manual move is I close below the stop, I put a stop on a nickel below the low of the day. And if I trade below, I'm stopped out. So I hope I answered your question. The chandelier is a stop. Imagine you have a in your room, you have a ceiling. And imagine we're in your dining room and you have a fancy chandelier hanging down. If I raise your roof, the chandelier goes up. And a chandelier stop, if I then lower your roof, the chandelier doesn't move, and I could lower the roof to the point where it hits the chandelier, and that's where it stops. So it's just a type of stop. It was promoted really a lot by Van Tharp, who, um, like everybody else I follow, we lost within the last couple of years. All right. So that's the e-index breakdown. That's the platforms. So for those that don't have the product, it's expensive, but not really. Okay, why is it not really expensive? You get everything that I have in 10 different programs at least. And if you bought stuff from me, you don't get penalized. So for example, for the month of August, I'm giving a $200 launch discount. If you're in top-down group, you get $100 off. That's 300. If you bought my marketplace tool, which means you paid an extra $9.95 on wealth charts, I'll give you $200. If you have my TradeStation tool, I'll give you $200. So you add those up at $700, it's going to cost you $12.99. If you come to my live meeting, you'll get the first you'll get all these discounts and potentially $400 more because I'll give you the $400 discount as well. So it'll be even lower. That's the first year. You get real-time data with the program, although I don't stream it. So you can click it every 5 minutes, every 1 minute, update it. God bless you. I built this for people like me, people that have a full-time job, that swing trade and position trade stocks that aren't in the market necessarily every minute of every day. But I have people that are. So we built in minute charts. I never use minute charts. And we'll soon be turning on the futures. So you'll have futures as well. So that's the cost. And then every year thereafter, I mean, it's going to be $5.99 or less because I got enough people that I can defray the data costs. But there'll be an annual fee, and that's for data, but also for all the updates and the upgrades. So I have a lot of aspirations. So if you have any issues with the program, Praveen's at coding at marketmripro.com, and I'm at marketmripro.com. So you see, you join Top Down Trader for free, you get an extra $100 from me. All right, chart time. So here is my nightly workflow. Interrupt me anytime you want, and I'll answer questions. Now, let me walk you through the things that I have open besides Market MRI Pro. And I want you to know Sager's here tonight. I can never figure out the time in Thailand. I'm always appreciative of Sager and what he's done. But I didn't know he was going to come. In fact, I've got more people here than signed up on the Zoom, so I can't even figure that one out. Even though I could duplicated some of these, Sager took some of this for me, made it better. I duplicated some of it and made it, I like how I made it. This sits on one of my computers during the day. And this is Sager's Q Edge tool. Downside, you have to have the data from Metastock, and it's not cheap. I have it. In fact, I have 3 subscriptions, but that's just because I'm a whack job. Um, or as David Derricott says, his best customer ever. But I think he thinks I'm a whack job. That's because I have more than one machine that I'm using at the same time. And I love this tool. This tool today is sort of surprising, to be honest with you, because this looks like it was a good day today, doesn't it? And Sager was actually out. I think he put a tweet out about how um, the overall market didn't look bad today. So we'll come back to this picture and we'll talk about it later. So this is one of the things that I use daily. You'll also see this is the new Metastock icon. And Sager and we are mutually learning from each other and building things that end up looking similar. Great. I love it. All right. Um, but I love what he did here. And one of the problems with things like the Hindenburg Omen, which is his skull and crossbones here, is that it's so variable among programs. I want to pull my hair out. And I'll see the Hindenburg Omen in HGSI and I won't see it in EdgeRater. I'll see it in Market MRI Pro and I won't see it somewhere else. And HGSI, I'm limited today to it's only figured out on the NYSE, and I think it matters on the NASDAQ as well. So with Sagar, I basically use it to validate and verify, and we'll talk a little bit about this later probably as well. That's another thing that after hours I'm looking at. Now, some of you bought my TradeStation tool, and you're probably wondering, Jeff, why aren't you using that? Well, because right now I'm focusing a lot on the sales side, which on the Market MRI Pro, so that I can get enough money into Sager's pocket so he doesn't hate me for tying up all the time I've tied up of his over the last year. But I run this every night, and here you would think this is the Sager appreciation meeting because this is my main workspace. And during the day, I have stocks that I owned going into the week, stocks that I was interested in before we had our lovely market move today, stocks I was thinking about shorting, which were probably the ones that have behaved the best this week. But I'm running, and one of the things that Sagar does that I love is he has systems in an indicator. He's got his systems for gap, breakout, flow, pullback, headwind, and so on and so forth as indicators. So I love running those along with how many up dots and how many down dots do I have? Because you'll find, like right here, LNT had a go with flow buy signal today. So we had one bullish signal. It had 2 up dots today. Its relative strength broke above the spider 1 day above the moving average, relative strength versus the spider. The weekly is still negative. It's got relative strength and it's got my Bible gap up. So the things that are most important to me, combining Sagar stuff with my stuff. And then the thing that Van built for me, which is the Market MRI Pro app, allows me, hold on a second, make sure that I did this enough. Yep, that's all of them. It allows me to run a list. Here's 1,000 things, run once, filter it. I'll open up my favorite filters, and my favorite filter if I'm long, and I'm not real long right now in my mind, and this is combining my dots, an uptrend, and Sager's breakout. And will I have it? I got three. I got realty income. Let me close this up. Oh, what did I do there? Oh, okay, I know what I did there. All right, I'll just enlarge this here and I'll fix that later. And I'm looking for, there's the breakout. There's my dots. There's the relative strength breaking out. And if I really want to see it, I don't know if I can set this up for all three. I have to change it, but I can just stick the O in here for now. And I could look at, is this something that I'm interested in? Um, well, it's been in a bit of a wedge. It broke out today. It had volume breakout and momentum. It's coming out of a squeeze. It's at 84%, so it's not overly extended. And what I always say is when I'm on the 200, I could give a hootenanny about the extension because I know it's not extended by the picture. Relative strength broke out. OBV is good. Weekly breakout as well. Love to like that as well. So I may actually go look at realty income. But I have found that this setup of what I've done, especially when the market is moving up, it allows me to combine Sagar stuff. And what by running this, I run it once. And once I've ran it, and it takes about 20 minutes to run. And if you got TradeStation, you know how lovely TradeStation is and how pathetic it is from a reliability perspective. Um, it's very different because I don't have to run the scan over and over again. I run the scan once. And this would be the similar to the downside. And I don't have the breakdowns today. So even though today was kind of ugly for the long side, it didn't give me a lot of short signals on the scan that I have. Now, obviously, I want to go back later and play with the scan and make sure it's not too tight. So these are the things I have on. And the thing that I use for news, and I just restarted this computer before we came in here, so let me put my username and password in, is I like briefing.com, and I get a good laugh because a lot of people that are in the morning giving their predictions for the market, what's going on, they basically cut and paste from this format. And it just gives you a nice news, and anything I can see, I can click into and read the story. And I always look here, Lazy Boy down 20%, JHX down 15, Alcon down 9%, Celldex had bad data today, down 16%. Just gives me a sense of what's moving, and it's during the morning. I'll see what's going on before the market opens. A very useful tool. And those are the tools that I'm using and supplementing what I'm doing with Market MRI Pro. Now, during the day, you're going to always see this on one of my screens. You're going to see three screens in my office at work. Yes, Randy, I'll talk about that in a second. You'll see three screens in my office at work, and one of them will have Sagar's Q Edge on it. Another will have this screen. And probably the third will have either Thinkorswim or TradeStation. Now, I'm not actively trading during the day, but if I get a break in meetings, I'll trade. Or I won't trade, I will manage my accounts. Very big difference. Most of my trades I put in at night before I go to bed. So I'll look up here as I start my weekend or nightly review, and I see volatility was the big mover. That's never good if you're long. The dollar was up. Diamonds were up a bit, 0.05%. And even though it looks so green on Q Edge because that meant the breadth was good, the indices were down. Spiders were down 0.54, Russell was down 0.77, and the Qs, which have been the big downer for the last couple of days, were down 1.36%. And then the Bitcoin was down another 2.82%. I have the open, the high, and the low, the percent from open, but what I really like is the range. And I like to see, I don't like to see a strong dollar if I'm worried about my stock, but I like to see things finishing in the upper part of their range. And even the diamonds that were positive, all the equities finished in the lower part of their range, as well as Bitcoin and volatility in the high part. So I learn a lot. Now, if during the day I want to update, I'm going to click on that right there. Over here are new high, new lows. And so it's not advanced decliners, but it's new highs and new lows. And I got the NYSE and the NASDAQ, short term and then long term, and or long term being a year. And I'm looking at the absolute number as well as the net. And I like to say new highs in the markets are not built on new lows of the underlyings. So we have weakened. We got to triple digits last week on the net at 52 weeks or 12 months. To me, it gives me a good clue as to what's going on. I also know that in the classic Hindenburg, I think you have to have 2.2%. Is it 2.2% new highs and 2 point or new lows to get a Hindenburg, and that as you start to get less and less new highs and new lows, you're not going to fire another Hindi. So I wouldn't expect a Hindi today. Over here, I watch Sagar and I go, yeah, that guy really added something really good. And when he put in this thing here during the day was interesting. How many stocks are above the midline? But the fact that this floats up and down during the day, it was like orgasmic because you could be watching the markets and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and the market's down. And then all of a sudden you notice you're starting to have more and more stocks. These buckets are going up. The market's starting to move the opposite way. And you can pick up reversals or you'll hit minus 35. It'll be at the lowest bucket, meaning stocks below the Bollinger Bands, and it'll spike to 30, 35% during the day. I never had that before. Tells me it's time to start thinking about buying because you're getting that crescendo sell off and the market's going to reverse. So I took it a little bit further. So I decided, Sager's done the S&P 1500. I'm going to add the NASDAQ and the NYSE. And what you can see is in blue or green are today's markets, in gray is yesterday. What percent of the sectors are up, industry groups are up, stocks are up, and what percent of the stocks are above the midline. I pretty much key on the third one. Today, 64% of the S&P 1500 were up. Hey, what did same as what Sagar said? It better be. It might be off sometimes by one. We have different data sources. Um, but only 31% of the stocks in the NASDAQ was up. You can tell where the weakness was today, more than just the Qs being down 1.36 and 51% of the stocks in the NYSE. So I guess you could say in some ways the market was stronger than the indices, especially when you look at the S&P 1500. But you got to worry about the NASDAQ with only a third of the stocks up. Try not to make too much in one day, but this is what I'm watching during the day. And then over here, I can look at 1 day change. And we have never, Praveen and I, meaning Praveen, because I couldn't program how to play tic-tac-toe. We haven't figured out what's wrong here with the columns in that there's clearly a formatting problem that if I click something, the columns change. And even though we pay for the underlying functionality and then you build and customize on top of it, they're not real responsive as telling us what we have to do to fix it. But you know what? I get over it. 1 day change. What's the leadership today? Have to make sure I'm up at the top of the group. So under 1 day change, the leadership is real estate, staples, and utilities, and healthcare. What does that tell me about the market right there? Defense, defense, defense. Those are defensive plays that go up when the market is down. So that tells me right away we had a defensive day in the market, and you could see tech, communications, discretionary the more momentum, the more growth, the more cha-cha-cha, rah-rah-rah stuff are all the underperformers with tech down 1.71. Even right click, all right. You're going to kill me. I mean, best fit all. And it stays that way? Son of a gun! Thank you, Tom. How come Sager, or not Sager, how come Praveen never told me that? Oh my goodness gracious. That is too funny. All right, well, thank you. Ha, I guess it doesn't stay. Okay. So the next time it goes away. Yep. All right. Bummer. Okay. So we had a defensive day, and if I look at themes, what was working, home building was up. Um, Toll Brothers reported, I think, after hours, and they were down a bit, but their numbers were actually a beat. 1.23 transports, MLP, so dividend payers, China, China, infrastructure, and preferred ETFs. That's it. The rest of the market was down. And I could click and look at this and see that. And this is why I don't like cannabis. Cannabis is either the top or the bottom, and they're all cheap stocks. But uranium got clobbered today. Blockchain got clobbered. Silver, which has been a leader, miners got clobbered. Software, which has been weak for a while, got clobbered. How do I know it's been weak for a while? Simple. I like the column because everything is green here. This has been a strong 2 months in the market, 3 months in the market, 50 days in the market, and blockchain is basically not changed, or rather, software is not changed. So I get an idea of what's leading to the downside. So this little page, to me, gives me a ton of information. Now, our data set has new highs and new lows, advances and decliners. Um, and we do incorporate the advances and decliners for both the NASDAQ and the NYSE in the market breadth page, but we can certainly put them into a grid, I think, if people wanted them. All right, so I always start on the daily briefing, and then I go to the timing model. So those that have followed me since wealth charts, and this is one thing I didn't build into HGSI ever, but there's probably no reason why I couldn't, was to do my timing model, which is the bongo, which is the top line, and then the 30 period WMA. It's a daily chart, so it's a daily. And for you to turn into a buy signal, which happened right here, is the first day that the bongo was in a buy in blue and the price closed above the WMA. Well, the price closed above the WMA on that day, but it doesn't count. Both have to occur. You will stay in a buy signal regardless of what the bongo does or price does until the first day here that the bongo turned red and price closed below the WMA. So to flip flop from a buy to a sell, it requires both of them. The daily model had a change today. The Qs, not by much, but the Qs closed below the WMA. Um, Again, not by much, but enough though with the red bongo to go into a sell. So Qs daily sell. The spider, the Russell, the diamond still say it's okay to be long. This is where the art comes in and not the binary buy sell comes in. All right. That gives me a sense. Short term, I already know we're under pressure. I talked yesterday how we'd been pulling back kind of orderly on each of the major indices. This isn't so orderly. If I look at this signal as a weekly, I am still, and you just look at the bottom. It used to be I'd have to look at it and decide am I long or short. Then we just said, screw that, we're just going to code it. So we are long weeklies. So if I am long the weeklies and mostly long the dailies, but the Qs have just flipped, I call that either a pullback in an uptrend uptrend under pressure. Now I am going to build the case before we're done tonight of why I have a large cash position, almost 50% right now. And I've got puts on enough of my long positions that I have well over 50% is not going to drop if the market sells off. And I will show you why I've done that. Now, I don't talk about the guppy charts often, but since I've got people here who can ask questions, I have guppy charts for a reason. And because it gives me a sense, and let's just play with the cues for a second. What you have here is the weekly cues, and you have moving averages from the 50 period to the 300 period. And in a bull market, I am going to typically be above the 50 most of the time, not all the time. And I'm going to see a fanning out of the moving averages, which Sager has as an indicator, by the way. And I'm going to have the order pretty much tied to the shorter one on top of the next shorter one, and so on and so forth. In a bad market, and I don't know if we'll go back far enough, I don't know how long we take this. In a really bad market, someday we'll see one. Can I get back to, all right, it's 14. What'll happen in a really bad market, I'm getting there. In a really bad market, you're going to start to see these things flip around. And you're going to start to see your price not only underneath the 50, but you're going to start seeing inversions. So I've lived through this one more than once. I've learned that I stay out until I'm popping back up here, or at least getting back into the moving averages. So I have it just so I can do a quick look. And again, I don't talk about it much. I know this is still a healthy market. Doesn't mean it's going to stay healthy, but it's still a healthy market today. I'll go look at the indexes. And if you haven't noticed already, there's this little 4 arrows. It maximizes the chart. So let's talk about what I have on this chart. Up here is the high-low jump. It is helpful when it's above 95, and it's helpful when it's below minus 95. Well, this wasn't above 95, but it was close. It was 94 and a half. And we just saw a pause, and then we went higher. All right, this isn't low enough because I could pull this down and you could see the numbers get even smaller. But you'll see on stocks and you'll see on the high-low jump at major lows, we get pretty low. What was the high jump here? You see that? Minus 98.92. If you watch my videos on April 7th, which was this day, high jumps at minus 100%. I put out my video on April 7th that said the bottom is in. Kind of an arrogant thing, and the bottom was in. But I put that video out on April 7th, which someday I'll realize how stupid it is to make calls like that people can go back and look at. Why did I put that out? Because the chart pattern, and when you're the most sold off that you've been in 200 bars, typically you're going to bounce. The bongo is a trending indicator. Red is down, blue is up. There are 2 indicators here. The top part is daily, the bottom is weekly. So we have been in a weekly uptrend in the spider, even though this is a daily chart, going back to May. We have had pullback in the uptrend here, a pullback in the uptrend here, and we have one here. The beauty of this indicator is not the exactness. It's not exact. It's not that it's fast. It's not fast. But if you stay in the market when the weekly is long and you get out when the weekly is short, you're going to avoid most of the damage. But more importantly, I can scan for daily, short, weekly, long. I can scan for weekly, long, and daily has changed from short to long within so many bars. That's how I identify pullbacks in an uptrend, by that scan, looking for this bar right here. Because I might have wanted to buy in this bar if I saw it, but this bar was probably the buy that would have gotten me excited. Why? Because I took out all these highs. So I look at it. This is a recent addition from Praveen, and this is a 10-day seasonality, and or 10-year seasonality rather. So you could see the spider is not going anywhere from a seasonal perspective. Shocker alert. When does it turn back up? When we get into November and December. That's November 1st. So what this tells me by looking at it is market was down today. And if I highlight it, you can look over to the left. It has percentage down 0.54%. And I don't know why I've got a 9-day EMA on. I was probably playing with something. I was drawing a trend line here and probably is no longer valid. So let me just delete it. Here's the 50 and here's the 200. And what I've been saying on my videos is I'd be shocked if it doesn't come back and touch the 50 either here or eventually. And even if it did, if it closed at up in the upper left-hand corner, the close was at 639.81 and the 50 is sitting around 622. That's only 3%. I mean, I'd be surprised if we don't come down and touch it. A break of the 50, then this becomes at play. What is that? That's the prior all-time high. And a break of that, I'm so short now, I'm not even worrying about the long side. And then my next target will be down at where the 200 is. So I'll look at each of those nightly. So that was the spiders. Let's open up the Qs. Again, here's your all-time high. That 50 is darn close and could be hit within a couple of days. Seasonality is sideways at best. And we know that the Qs were down today 1.36%. And if I click on it, it'll highlight and hold it down. You can see what the high jump is. You can see the open, high, low, and close. You can see what each of the moving averages are. So you don't have to look in the upper left unless you want to. The diamonds, so the Q, let's go back to it for 1 second. This is a more ugly bar than we saw in the spider. When we look at the diamonds, blow it up, you just highlight the bar. Diamonds are kind of going sideways here, maybe sideways in an uptrend, but they're kind of going sideways. This looks like a spinning top. That could certainly be a topping candle. And again, like the others, you guys can still hear me. Just type a Y because I just had a beep. I want to make sure I didn't lose internet. Okay, thanks, Sager. These are kind of, does this look like a market that wants to go higher? Here's an intraday reversal. Here's a spinning top indecision, and then another one on a market that seasonality says at best is sideways. Again, I think that 50-day is obvious. We'll see if we get down there or not. We're at 449 to 439. It's just 2%. I mean, to me, that's where I like to see us pull back to and bounce. Now, the one that's very different is this guy. And what's different is it hasn't come close to a new high. The spiders and the Qs have all had multiple new highs over the last couple of weeks. The diamonds reversed off of it, but the diamonds did. So the Russell has been weaker in that respect, but the Russell has had a very massive move off the lows like the others. So it's pulled back into this trend line and it held. We know the Russell's been the strongest of late. Maybe it's going to keep going higher here. I don't know. I think the market, I've shown you enough to say that we should be a little bit concerned about the market. George Lee, may rest in peace. When the VIX is high, it's time to buy. And when the VIX is low, look out below. VIX is low. Problem is, it can stay low for a long time before the market sells off and the VIX goes higher. Well, I think you have to be concerned a little bit here, but the VIX was up almost 4% today. So there's a lot of complacency in this market. I still think we're going lower before we hit all-time highs everywhere, and I still think that that happens highs again before the end of the year. But it's not bad to bet against the market in August and September. And if you look at the dollar is way off of its highs. And I thought it was going to go right up to the 200 here, and it failed. So I've got this little line here that I'm watching, and we're still below it, but the dollar was up today 0.26. Now, when I move my mouse, everything will change. But I just showed today's change, or the bar you highlights change up here because I like it to be in front of me. I don't want to be thinking in my mind. All right, so my review of the market so far, they're holding up pretty darn well. I think they're going lower. Then I look at the commodities, and often if the market is troubled, the commodities are doing well. That didn't really happen today. In fact, when we look at gold, gold had this major run. Maybe it's flagging here. I could probably make that up. But gold broke down below the 50, and today gold was down 0.5%. One of the things that I like about this program versus working with Sager's program is that it's faster. And Metastock sometimes takes a while. TradeStation's fast most of the time too. But you know, I do have a quirk, and when you watch my videos, is the first stock takes forever to load. Once that one wakes up the server and the connection, then the next ones are fast enough. But I do like the fact that I don't have to wait for things for the most part to load. I get, which is frankly the best of them all, is HGSI, because it's only HGSI, which I had open, where, once I'm in HGSI and I open up a chart, again, this has all my indicators on it. Nothing is as fast as this. Yeah, great question. And John, Sagar is not here yet. Not Sagar. Oh my God. Praveen, you're here. That was a great ask that John Roseland just had. Sorry if I gave your last name, but it's a great comment. He wants a timestamp on the refresh. Um, and I think that makes sense. If whenever somebody refreshes any of the screens, could we not have a timestamp come up and say what time it is? Certainly on the daily briefing and on the JES layout, I think that would be extremely useful. So what I was saying about gold, and thanks for that comment, and Praveen, thanks for joining. You see the breakdown here in gold. It's done that before and it's bounced, so I'm not going to make more of it. You could see silver pull down to the 50. I'm not going to enlarge it, down 2%. You could see oil here is struggling underneath the 200. Oh, my mouse does this all the time. And again, you see these little arrows? That's what Praveen put in there because he knows I'm a klutz and I mess up the screens. So this is unusable. But I go up because I hit the bar too much. If I go here, I come on, and I just, of course, hello, because I did something I shouldn't have done. All right, it's coming back. Let's go back into that view, into the commodities. Yeah, great question, Randy. Um, let's open up. So what I was just trying to show you before I was obnoxious and made a mess is if you hit those triangles, it will revert you back to a usable screen. Let's say I only want to have 40. Samir, good question. Let's say I want to see only 30 bars. Up here, you see the 100? Probably says a different number for you. I hit 30, and it now has 30 bars. If I want 500 bars so I can't read anything, I have 500 bars. So I can define what my optimal number of bars is. Let's leave it at 70. Um, you'll notice that on most of my charts, I have put in the percent change. It's an indicator. The indicator is percent. And you find it under price, closing price, change percent, previous close to current close. You add that as an indicator. Seasonality. Let's go back to the JS layout, which we haven't gone to yet. So what I showed you, any square, any of the grids, you hit that, you open it up, um, you'll see seasonality, and I've got a couple of different ones because one of them is looking at 5 years and one's looking at 10 years, and then I adjust the color. You have to add it yourself. You go under indicators, and I don't never know where they are, under price. And when you add it, you have some choices you can make. You could look at forever. You could, and then when you open it, when you put it on the program, you can choose how many years, 5, 10, 15, 20. I forgot you have to put it on the program first. So let me show you that inside the program. So back here to the seasonality, come on. Years and since. I can pick anywhere from 5 to 25 or all. You might want to set the seasonality starting 5 days before or 10 days before, and then it builds from that point on. And why would you do it? I guess you might do it because it'll give you a sense of how accurate the seasonality has been over the last couple of weeks. So SM, you're too identifiable. There's not many with your first name, so I'll call you SM. Um, you probably just have to put the indicator on. All right, keep the questions going because folks, if you have questions, people that have the program that aren't here, they have questions too. The more you ask and I answer, the more likely I'm taking care of theirs. So oil weak, natural gas is dead. Um, the 10-year and the 30-year, and I have a hard time finding these on most of my programs. Thinkorswim got rid of TNX. These are actually, I think they're futures, and I don't know if they're calculated or what off the 10 and the 30-year, but I follow them. I think 5% is a key, and you could see that probably because the market was weak, bonds probably would have gone up, and the rates on the 10-year and the 30-year are both down. Um, I don't like when they're down because the market's weak, but it's probably a good thing when they're down because there's no inflation. But today they were down because the market was weak. The bond, so they were down 0.90 and 0.85. So that's favorable to the market. Buckets. I love my buckets. Ian Woodward, may he rest in peace. You notice the theme of everybody's dead. It's so depressing. Ian, may he rest in peace, made use of the Bollinger Bands or the components related to the Bollinger Bands that nobody else had ever done. And the way that he broke the index into deciles tied to the Bollinger Bands every 10%. And you know what they are. They're in every program. Percent B. Percent B of 55. That means it's midway, just over the midway. Percent B of 8% is down at the bottom. Percent B of minus 20. It means it's it's below the Bollinger Bands. So all that we've done is we've captured the percent B of every stock in those indexes. And between number 1 and number 10 are 10 different deciles. How many are in each decile? And then how many are below and how many are above? And where most programs will look at the S&P 1500, I have learned over my 3 decades of trading, and my trading equals swing trading and position trading, not day trading, because day trading, none of this probably matters. that in my time of trading that they don't all behave the same. And that might be useful to me and give me an edge. The gray was yesterday. The color is today. So I can see that the market weakened today. We got more stocks below here than we did yesterday. We got less stocks above. Nothing of below or above are above 10%. I don't care if they're 15%, 18%. I care a lot when they're 25, 35, 45, 55, and beyond. But let me show you one of my favorite slides that's hidden here. So let me unhide it. Unhide it and pop it up. Are you going to show? Let's see. I'm going to try to show it. If I can show it, I can show it. If I can't, I can't. I'll survive. In a really bad bear market, these buckets can become horribly. And I remember this was, I thought it was the low potentially. Thank God I didn't put out a video. The low is in October 2008 because it was March 9th of 2009 when it really was in. But look at those buckets, all right? Essentially, 100% of the stocks were below the midline of their Bollinger Bands. Close to 80% of the stocks were below the bottom of their Bollinger Bands. And whenever I see a market where I want to tease myself into believing that it's different this time, um, it's never different this time. And things can get much, much lower than you think they can. So there's no signal here. It's very neutral. Market breadth. So there's differences here than what I've shown you. Now, of course, since I had to restart the program, it takes a little bit longer. So let me just spread it. I'm using the roller on my mouse to make it less dates on the screen. The left is the NYSE composite. The right is the NASDAQ composite. It was asked if we can do a grid on advanced decliner, or can we put out the advanced decliners. This is the new high, new lows. On the left, the NYSE, the right, the NASDAQ composite, so you can see the highlighted numbers. Then we have the advanced decliners, and then we have up-down volume. So they're all captured here, although if you want to look backwards, maybe there's a way to create a grid or something. So we'll talk about the Hindis now. Hindenburg number 1, Hindenburg number 2. On the NYSE, I have not seen one in my program, Praveen's program. I've not seen one on the NASDAQ yet. The first one is interesting. You got 30, 32 bars to see a second one, or it doesn't matter. We got the second one. I worry about the 50-day because if we don't break above the 50-day, it's obviously not a big sell-off. We bounced off the 50. For me, these are in play now for a while. If we go on to new highs, then I'll stop worrying about them. And we kind of got close, didn't we? I mean, although I'd have to go back to the left, I do think these were the all-time highs on the NYSE. That's a shooting star. That is a bearish candle. That was an indecision bar. That was an indecision bar. This was a open at the prior high and trade down and close in the middle day. That is not a healthy looking set of candles. My expectation, this is coming down. Why am I concerned? I'm concerned because of these two triangles. Now, what happens if we go higher? I'm happy. I'm still got longs. I will not bail out of everything and paint the crepes that this is over until we break the 50. Now, there's still a fair amount of room, which means I'm willing to give up 4 or 5%. But I'm okay until it breaks the 50. You did hear me say earlier that I'm about 50% in cash. It's easy to be okay with your long positions when your two big ones have puts on them and you're otherwise 50% in cash. Did I get hurt today? I got hurt today, but percentage-wise in my portfolio, not so bad because 50% is in cash. This here are the stocks above the 50 in white in green the 20, and in red the 200. Why is this important? Go back to April 7th. I think this is April 7th. Yep. April 7th, our new highs, new lows were peaking to the downside on both the NYSE and on the NASDAQ. Um, we had this plus here, which is called the bingo. And the bingo is the baby out with the bathwater. I was probably a little premature, but on the 8th, we had a phoenix. Now, the phoenix is typically a sign of doom and gloom that the market's going lower, unless it happens after a big sell-off and it's the irrational exuberance to the downside. The next day, we had a kahuna, and that's what defined the bottom here. Okay. If I look at the stocks here above the moving averages, look at those numbers, 3, 5, and 14%. Those are about as low as you're going to see. Okay. Then you can hardly see it here, but there's this magic little green triangle. And I remember Praveen came to me and said, "Oh, I figured out the opposite of the Hindenburg Omen." Okay. And he did. And we call it the defibrillator. Brings the person back to life. And the defib fell on the 9th. That was the first prospective defib signal that we had since we started the since it was created by Praveen. So I'm looking for a constellation of super low numbers here, lots of new lows and lower volume, and Eureka makes me happy. That the fib, I never want to see one because it means the market sold off a ton, and then those bingos. All right, so that's what a low looks like. Look at those numbers here. Remember there were 3, 5, and 14? It looks like 72, 74, and 55. Those are high numbers. When we start to get numbers like that, percentage of stocks above their moving average, we're short-term overbought. We're coming down. What else did we see there? A bango. What is a bango? A bango is we're buying everything in sight, hand over foot. It's kind of the opposite of the bingo, which is the baby out with the bathwater signal. Now, only Ian creates names as stupid as, as wonderful as these. They're stupid. They're wonderful names, and I could never change them, but they don't mean anything. Bingo, bango, bongo. I think the next word he put on his slide was crapo. But you know what? They fit. I know what they are. I don't have to think about what they are. I'm never going to change those names. Bingo, baby, out of the bathwater. Bango is the opposite. It's a big buying day. A eureka is not irrational exuberance. A eureka is sort of the follow through day equivalent. It's a sign of bullish move coming in the market, unless it's at a top, and then it's considered, oops, too much exuberance. And a phoenix is the market's probably going down, unless it's at the bottom. The Hindenburgs are predicting the market may go down. Only 1 out of 4 give a significant move. And the defib is the markets are going to go higher. The NASDAQ, how is the minus 1150? So Praveen, it's just advances minus decliners for that given day. Gives you the absolute number on the AD line is what I'm assuming. If it's different, let me know. We could probably plot AD lines as well. In fact, we do, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. So that's how I use this. Now, reality on a daily basis, do I spend as much time as I have tonight? No. I look at it. Okay. Not much to say about that candle. Maybe we set a new high yesterday in the NASDAQ composite. That's what that looks like. But oops, that wasn't yesterday. Sorry about that. I had to post it today. So I look at these candles and say indecision. Okay, Praveen's just listening. He's driving home. Reverse. This is, to me, looks like we're setting up a reversal. I could be wrong. They're indecision. They could go higher. I'm betting they're not. This is a bad candle. Period. This is a candle that worries me that we're gonna the water's pouring out of the hose, and we'll see if how far we come down. Enough said. And then I put my little thing down here, and we're not at a point that's ridiculous on stocks above, and I got no singles there. Next. And then I go to mark. This is something you don't have. Um, so is it updated throughout the day? I don't believe that the market breadth signals are updated throughout the day. Um, and Praveen, if I'm wrong, let me know because I've looked during the day, but I don't think we're updating the market breadth until the after hours. I will tell you, I live on the East Coast, and our goal is to have them done by 4:05 or 4:10, right after the market closes, and then we'll update them a few more times through the night because sometimes there's revisions. Those that watch my videos know that this is one of my favorite places to figure out volume. And frankly, I have a bunch of scans I run in this that I can't necessarily duplicate anywhere else yet. That maybe someday I can. So I do use what formerly known as Smith, now known as Market Surge, because Dow Jones bought it, and some of these names that didn't come with the acquisition apparently. So the volume was normal today, and that's something I like to look at. And then I could see up on volume versus down on volume stocks. And although there was more stocks down on volume, that's not an earth-shattering difference. All right, so here is a sheet that I would recommend you guys ask Praveen to put it into yours. And Praveen, this is my market breadth, new high, new low, 13-week sheet. It has the spiders. It has the NASDAQ composite, the IXIC. It has the Russell 2000, and it has the S&P 1500. It doesn't look at the Qs and the Dows. It looks at the big indexes. Let me take this thing. Maybe not. Let me. Well, I'll take it off. I'll play with that later. I don't want to distract you. The first window below the price bars is the 13-week new high, new low. I have, and I continue to pay for this program, which I can probably reevaluate whether I need to keep paying for it, which for Jeffrey speak means I never take things off once I buy them. I keep paying for them. But for TC 2000, this indicator here has made me a lot of money. And this indicator is that 13-week new high, new low. And if superimposed on this is the S&P 500. And like clockwork, when you tag an extreme at the top, the market will sell off. Okay? Like clockwork, when you touch the bottom, let's find, I'll never get to March of 220. But when you hit the bottom and the market here is going down, ring the register and buy everything because the market's going up. It's been that good of a signal. Here was the reversal day. See if I get it. Yeah. Which was Wednesday, last week, was when we hit that top, and that's when the market started to roll over. They don't tell you, unfortunately, and this is their stocks above the 200 and stocks above the 40. And they do have in this program the 10-year rates and the 30-year rates, but I've got them in Market MRI Pro now. They don't tell you what index they're looking at. I'm wondering if it's a Wilshire 5000, and I'm wondering if we have that data and the underlying new high, new lows, advanced declines. So the green line is the new high, new lows. So all I got to do is look, 87, that's still pretty high on the spiders. 53, on the NASDAQ, 74 on the Russell, and 88. So it's 87, not 83, and then 88 on the S&P 1500. Large caps are still holding up okay, as that's what that tells me. Those are not going to reverse stay. This was one that I was much more concerned about up here. And I think if you looked at it over whether it was the weekend or it was Thursday video, I called that out. Here's the same stocks above the moving average. Here's your AD line of the S&P 500, NASDAQ 1500, and the Russell 2000. Someone asked about the AD lines. They're here. You can put them wherever you want to put them. They're already built in. A lot of these things in here, including the chandelier, which I don't know if he's updated it. Oh, maybe this is the new chandelier. They're already in here. And we will have more to come, a lot more to come. And then the last line is the RSI. And we were showing a really good divergence on the RSI where the markets were making new highs and the RSI was selling off. So I think this is a great sheet for looking at the markets. And I built it for myself. It wasn't hard. You can take a snapshot and go build your own, but I think we should put that in as a regular page in the program. And it wouldn't be that hard for Praveen to do that. That's my top-down perspective. I would argue for an after hours, there's no better way of doing it. All right. I would also tell you that Sagar's Q Edge during the day, there's no better way of doing it. And let me just, look, I'm a horrible salesman. I'm selling you somebody else's stuff. All right. And I don't even get royalties, but Sagar and I are buddies and I don't want royalties. But I've always loved this Q Edge, although these diagrams, I would be so happy if I hover over them and they told me what they did. But I can look at this. I think that'll take me to sectors, maybe. And it shows me, I'll make it bigger because I know somebody's going to say it's too small. And I could look at how they're moving, what's leading. So materials, utilities, energy, we're moving the most today. Interestingly, energy is weak. Huh. All right. Then let's say I want to look at the industry groups in those top three. And let's say I just want to rank them by performance. And I want to look at the top 10 or so. Okay. And then I can hit this. And he's listed the stocks. And I know there's not going to be any diamonds because the market sucks. I'll make sure. But he's got his built-in scans, which are looking for characteristics like earnings and earnings growth, price movement, etc. Whether things overvalued, undervalued, and I might go and look at this NWN because it's undervalued because I don't know what color that is. It's not blue. And maybe it's cyan. I'm not good at colors. But there's so much in this program. And you can do that real time. But I think the markets are at least under pressure. I think the markets could sell off 2, 4, 5%, 6%, and really be who cares. It's not going to hurt the long-term story of the markets. Yeah, if you're heavy into options and especially if you're holding naked calls where you have nothing to defray against your cost. And, August and September have not been nice to the market the last 3 years. You've got the Hindenburgs. I think we got reasons to think we've got a pullback here. Then I go and I look at ratio charts. I want more ratio charts in the program. So Praveen is supposed to make it so I can make my own ratio charts, which means so you can make your own ratio charts and allergies. And so all except for the upper left are the whatever's here, XLC communications, XOY discretionary, so on and so forth, ratio charts versus the spider. Upper left is Bitcoin. Something that's been strong for a while will be lower left, upper right, but technology is selling off. Healthcare has been weak as shit. Oh, I can't believe I just said that because I'm posting this. Healthcare has been weak as not what I said. But look what's happened over the last couple of days. Healthcare's turned up. These are hourly charts. They react quickly. The long white line shows short-term strength. Discretionary, a lot of strength has come in. Interestingly, staples is starting to turn up. Today was defensive. Industrials has turned up. Utilities turned up. Real estate's turning up. But Jeff, the market sucked today. How could things be turning up? This is the relative strength versus the spider. The market could be down 500 points. You'll be turning up on your ratio chart if your percentage down as a sector was less than the market. The market's up 200 points. You'll be turning down if you'll be turning up if you are better than the performance of the spider, but you could actually be going lower right corner down if you're underperforming. It just tells you relative performance. Just gives me a sense during the day, after hours, what's leading. I've asked Praveen, and I know it's on the roadmap, to have hourly, but add daily and weekly to give you different views, as well as to allow you to create your own ratios. Now I move on to the JES layout. I think is it updated throughout the day? So what's updated throughout the day? The ratio charts are updated throughout the day. You just have to, man, I never usually do them. Well, I do look during the day. I thought they were updated. Um, Praveen, we need to put the update circle back on the ratio charts because those can be updated during the day. Buckets will update during the day. I'll do that during the day. The daily brief, I do this all the time during the day. The commodities and the US indexes, again, a little bit different place to update them. We should probably standardize that. And I love the timestamp of when you last updated them. I believe the ratio charts, the way you update them today is you just go, when you come back in, it updates it for you. And then the timing brief will update during the day, and you'll get your signals during the day. Just remember, um, a weekly bar does not close until 4 o'clock on Friday. So if tomorrow the market sells off hard, then, it could, or we buy the dip and it goes up a lot. But let's say the NASDAQ's down another 500 points tomorrow. It could turn during the day to a sell signal on the daily, but it's where it closes that matters. It could be down 500 on Wednesday and 500 on Thursday and flip the weekly to a sell and trade up 200 on Friday and flip back to a buy. It doesn't repaint once the bar is closed, but it will repaint until the bar closes. So it really only is a final signal when the bar closes. The JAS layout, I don't know where we sit today, but it was originally designed that every 3 to 5 minutes the grid will update, and to update it, if you don't want to wait, you just click up there. The chart, you can update it by yourself. When you open up a new chart, you see how fast it is when the program's working. It's just that first one when you haven't been doing anything for a while, just makes me want to pull my hair out. But that's the waking it up. So if during the day I want to update a chart I'm looking at, I just click on it up here and it updates pretty quick. When I say click during the day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is about the time it's taking for me to see it update. It's not instantaneously, but I'll take that speed. So again, high-low jump, daily, weekly bongos. I liked let me make sure, see, is it 9-day exponential still on it? No. Okay, good. I like 17 in green, 50 in white, 200 in red. I don't care what color your moving averages are. To change the colors or to put colors on them, you just open up Here you define your moving averages. If you don't like mine, put your own in there. And then here's my seasonality defined. And then here's my chandelier. Some people would rather use a factor of 3. I don't care what you use whatever you like. That'll move it a little further away and give you too much more room. For me, it might be fine. To me, it looks a little bit too loose for my taste. But even in Van Tharp's book, he talks about what he uses. I wonder if you can do 2.5. Yeah, I thought maybe it would do something in between. I don't think it cared about the other digits, so I'll put it back to 2. So that's what's sitting here. Now, Praveen has to turn something back on, but you'll notice in your indicators somewhere there's a relative strength, and it's not an RSI. It's similar to what you're used to in other programs, relative strength ranking. Here it is, relative strength versus the spider, and then they're ranked from 0 to 100 from a percentile. Where is it? Somewhere in here. I just saw it. Oh, here it is. Well, that's the relative strength below, but we have a relative strength that's turned off now. Um, but that's what this is for. And when we turn it back on, you'll be able to plot the relative strength similar to what they do in Market Smiths / Market Surge. Down here, you have the volume. You have my dots. Remember, the top one is the EMS. It's an early movement signal. It's a type of a crossover. One thing that the program does is sometimes I almost think it goes black before it changes color. But pretty red means it's in a sell, green it's a buy. Below that is the CPR, which is a different type. Both of those are unique freestanding trading systems, and I've asked Praveen to make them into arrows so you can plot them on your chart and open up your own chart, put just those on it and see if you like it. Then you get the same dots as everywhere. Gap, volume, breakout, momentum, squeeze. The 3 dots after the yellow line are when it's coming out of the squeeze. I want to scan for when the squeeze is over, not when it's in the middle of the squeeze. And then what I really think is a secret weapon, and thanks to Chris Wilson, an HGSI who showed me his chart one day, and as I've said before, he said, "Look, Jeff, I plot the relative strength of the stock versus the spider, and when it goes below the moving average, I want to be out, and when it goes above, I want to be in." And he was specifically referring to the weekly. Well, I don't pay royalties, but over here where it says RS and then W, one means Agilent crossed over today. So we waited a few minutes. Now we have to wait for A to print. And then the -6 tells me it's still negative on a weekly. So I can scan for and search for when those switches occurred, and you can see it crossed over today. So the weekly is probably as powerful or more powerful. We don't talk much about TradingView, but if you buy the program and if you don't have it and you bought the program, then email Praveen at coding dot whatever I said, coding at Market MRI PRO or .com, or email me and he'll give you our indicators for TradingView. You just need to have your username. I'm cleaning them up for 1 second. Some of these are not mine, are things that I've downloaded and play around with. So I'm going to try and get, well, it is what it is. If you're in the program and you want to look at Agilent in TradingView, and there's a reason why you should want to do that. You hit the TV. It'll open up the stock you were looking at in TradingView. In TradingView, I have the ability of plotting that weekly cross on a daily chart. And I think that's really cool. And the other thing that's nice about TradingView is there's thousands of indicators from outside that you can combine my stuff with. Everything in this chart we've recreated in TradingView, and if you own Market MRI Pro, you get those. You just have to ask for them, including the seasonality. So I've got the seasonality plotted, the dots, the relative strength versus a moving average, and the OBV. On each of these, you could open up the window and you could see, and we didn't give you the ability to change the length or type of moving average, but you could put OBV on your own charts without it. And I don't think we've created yet indicators on top of indicators, but that's on the list to get done. So over here, and I know it, I'm gonna change the sizes for a second. I have what matters to me. That's why it says JAS. And if you remember, or if you listen to my videos, it includes the NYSE, the NASDAQ, and the Amex. All the stocks added up together, filtered for $1 and 100,000 shares. So I get rid of funny, silly preferred things and bond funds that like don't trade, and I get rid of penny stocks. I've seen it get to 3,900. I've seen it get down to 3,500. Today we have 3,600. You may not want those, okay? Frankly, I don't want those either. I want them, but I really want to just filter out everything below $5 and below 500,000 shares. It takes me to 1884. I have the symbol, their emblem, which I think is kind of cutesy. Last price, change in percent. How many up dots do I have of my impulse indicator? How many down? No different than what I showed you inside a trade station. How many up dots? How many down dots? And why? If I had better names, I'd probably sell 10 times the programs. I'm not that inventive. Look at a stock. What characteristics occur when a stock starts a move? More volume, breaks out from a trading range, you get momentum, gaps. You're going to find those all over the place. Momentum, breakouts, volume, and gaps. So I scan for those. I like them even more if they're coming out of a squeeze because they've got more energy built up, but it's still those four dots. So one thing I like to do is I'll throw on a pullback and an uptrend, price and volume. I'll come here, I'll rank them by number of up dots, and I'll go look at this LXP. Now, obviously, I'm going to do this too. So here's a stock that's been in a downtrend, failed the 200 there, broke out here, massive volume. Again, I don't care about extensions when I'm setting the bar on the 200. I had a CPR today, a gap, volume breakout, momentum, relative strength took off, OBV took off. I'll pop up here, magic button, fundamentals. Earnings came out July 30th, so it's not about the earnings. It's a REIT. Earnings are boring. They don't do anything, but that's probably good if I'm a REIT. Revenue, pretty flat. You can see revenue growth change, earning growth changes. You see surprises. Market loves surprises. It pays a 6.6% dividend. I like it. I like dividends. I'm old. So I don't know why it went up today, so I go over to the newspaper. Disinflation dividend. All right. I want to read that. I click on that. It opens up in Seeking Alpha, and I can now read about what's going on. Maybe I'll find something specific about this stock. I can go down the list. Buy it before the reshoring boom goes mainstream. That came out a couple months ago. I might want to read that. We've built it so you just click the button, it opens up for you. Yeah, of course, this isn't a downtrend. It's REITs. REITs have been weak. But if we go into a tough market, maybe REITs are a place to be. The weekly, not that exciting. Monthly is going to be ugly too. But is something different here? I don't know. We're all different. But I like that dividend. I like the breakout. I have to remember what happened here and what happened here. So I have to believe the expectation is it's coming down. If it keeps going higher, that might be very interesting. I don't normally do this back and forth, but I'm doing this to make it easier to show you. How many up dots, how many down dots? The daily bongo is green if it's green, it's red if it's red. Okay. And then what we're showing is the number of how many bars. The weekly age is how many bars. So we know that, oh, I've got pullbacks and uptrends. They're all going to be green. I always forget to turn off my filters. You'll know that by watching my videos. Or forget to turn off the weekly chart. So age is how many bars on the daily, how many bars on the weekly. Well, it should be like 70 some weeks if I have days if I got 9 weeks. FM2, FM5, and FM13 is my modified version of Alexander Elder's force index. And I use that for momentum. There's a 2-day EMA, a 5-day EMA, and a 13-day EMA on my modified force index. I created a way of doing the force that takes away the fact that banks always have force on an update because they have 50 million shares every day. Well, I could care less if I have 50 million shares traded daily on JP Morgan and today I have 47 million. I don't want to give them an award for having 47 million. But if they had 80 million and it was 60% higher than a normal day, I want to give them an award. So I reward the increase or decrease percentage compared to the average move, average volume, multiply it times the price change. I plot that, which is Jeffrey's modified force, and then I look at 2, 5, and 13. What am I doing? I'm looking at short-term momentum, intermediate term, short, not as short, and medium. There's nothing long-term here. And it's a great way of bringing things up that have been moving for the last couple of days, not necessarily whipsawing because today there was good news and tomorrow they're down. So that's these. Our vol, just looking at the relative volume today versus a normal day. Volume is a big driver of price change. I took out my filter, so a lot of cheap garbage. OBV. No, the OBV is not one. But if it's a green one, it tells me that the OBV crossed above its moving average one day ago. Okay, that's what I like. Or actually today, because I'm looking end of day, today's bar. If it's -1, better have crossed over today to the downside. And you could see here was yesterday and here's today. Talk about an ugly looking chart. I didn't pick it, only picked it because of the OBV. So I don't really care what the absolute number is. I care about if I have above in green or below with a negative in red. So if you're colorblind or only have a black and white monitor, it's not going to be red, it's going to be minus. And then the relative strength, the daily and the weekly. Now, I'm not going to go into it tonight because we haven't finalized it yet, but we have built the ability that you can come in and customize each of these, what you're looking for, and create your own scans. That part's done, okay? If I only want stocks that are greater than or equal to $500, there's only 47 of them, okay? Well, who cares? But the point is, it's real time, allows you to create your own filters. What we haven't finished yet is the save your filter. So I'm not really telling people about it until we get that. So that explains what's in the grid. Same thing that's in the chart. Do some more, show you what we've done. One of the things I like in HGSI is their top 50. So let's open up HGSI. Every time you do an update, these things on top are called smart groups are updated for you. That was yesterday. If I do an update, it's going to take 7 minutes. So let's go update it, and I hope I remember to come back to it. So I'm going to update it and get today's value. So let me go back into the chart. I like to put certain lists in. So I create the lists in HGSI because that's how I've always done it. I then store my lists. Boy, I used to have a lisp, and it's going to come out if I keep saying the word lists. Hold on a second. My wife is, why aren't I talking to you? I am on video. Therefore, I'm not answering the phone. I store my list as Excel spreadsheets, CSV, and as Word documents, depending on how I import them into a program. So I have a high RSI list. I have a list of FANG stocks plus a few other things. I put stocks in that I'm interested in buying. Is there still, oh, no filter on, is there, this isn't updated for this week. Stocks I'm interested in shorting. Um, the HGSI top 50, I'll put in most days. Here was our index from Orange County. And we have to change how we create this. It looks different than HGSI, but I click this thing right here. Watch what happens. It creates the index. Um, I, the way that Praveen did it, I believe here is one share of everything and create the index. What HGSI does is you can choose how to do it. And what I like to do is say, let's say I bought $1,000 worth of every stock in the list. I'd have the ability of if a stock is $100, I'd have 10 shares. If it's $500, I have 2 shares. And then I could create the list that way. So I want to do that here, but I do think that's pretty cool. So I may just want to scan stocks that were on that list, or typically the high relative strength list is a list that I do a lot of my fishing for. Of course, I've now messed up all my columns. So let me play. Won't do it. Oh, whatever. Um, so that's what's sitting up here. And if you want to create your own list, there's a plus and minus up there. You just type in and convene picks, and see where it popped up here. And so now I can close that, and I could right click, import from a file. And here's what I created a couple days ago. Come on. Keep everything in my drop boxes so I can always find them. Whoops, wrong one. The one below that, Jeffrey, which is here. And I can either import a text file or I can import a CSV. I was looking at these as potential shorts. They probably were all up today because of the reversion to the mean. And then I could put them in a list, and I could, using the down key, rapidly look at stocks and see what they're doing. And I will typically do that. This looks interesting. Pull back to the 50 and a breakout today. It closed right here. I don't like that. But boy, if this closed up here, that would have been an interesting candle, an interesting trade. Defense stock, more defense stock. All right, this was ugly over the weekend, but look at what it did today. Um, Not extended. It's at 48. Pullback in an uptrend that resolved to the upside today. Seasonality is boring. This I don't like. It big up move today. Not, well, probably decent volume. It had breakout momentum out of a squeeze with a relative strength cross. That one isn't ugly. I'm not looking for winners here because I'm looking at things that I was looking at potential shorts for the week. And so I basically just go through the list. And it's pretty easy for me to go through. How you got the index page, is it your own custom setup? Yes. If you want it, the at tops, Everybody should make their own E-index. So my directions to create an E-index are to find stocks that looked like this before it didn't. That is a lower left to an upper right pattern. And it still went higher, but let's just leave it here. You build a leaders list by going and finding stocks that look like this. You want to have a list that includes 15 to 25 stocks. You want them to have no more than 2 in any industry group. And you want to create that list after the market's been in a significant uptrend. And that is your leaders list. You then would put them, and I'll go back to HGSI, great, in a directory. I put them into this directory here, Leaders Index, June OC 2025. If I show you this, I'm able to break out. I love this program. The user interface is tough, but once you learn it, it is like gold. Here's the different industry groups. We cheated. I think I saw 3 internet services. But for the most part, we have 1 or 2 groups per industry. It automatically calculates an index. And this is the index that I showed you that finally broke down today. But when we built this in Orange County, the audience, the people that were there gave me their list of stocks. We put this in a list. Now, you would put that in a text file if you didn't have HGSI, one ticker, then the next line, the next ticker. And the way you import them is you do this. I am going to go to the top 50. Here's today's top 50, and this updates during the day. It's an outstanding, and don't have time to go into where it comes from, but we will in the live meeting. I'm going to go here, copy to clipboard, text column. I already have, I do this most nights, HGSI top 50. I think I already emptied it. Let me empty it out, edit, select all, delete, copy, paste, close, save. So I just created a boring text file. I go into my list here, go to HGSI top 50, right click on my mouse, import from file, go into my Dropbox. Let's go find HGSI top 50. 1, 2, 3, it pops up. And all I got to do here is highlight, start going down the list. This is one we looked at last weekend. I can't believe it kept going. And see if anything looks. Array, that was one I liked, solar stock. That one is not sold off. AUPH. And I am looking to see anything actionable. A couple of these look good, just the market's poopy, which is not a medical term. And this, if we were building a leaders list, this is the pattern you want to see. I'm looking for things that are setups to buy tomorrow. I'm not expecting to find many, by the way. I mean, I want to find this here, not after it's run. But the point is, I inputted a nice list of stocks. I think LXP is interesting. I like their dividend. Royal Caribbean looks interesting here too. I love pullbacks to the 50. Love pullbacks to the 50. All right, so let's go back to so the impulse list, 3,600 stocks with no filters. Top down, love this, love what we did here. These are the sectors. It's all the stocks in my list are given a sector and an industry group. That means this is the S&P 3,600. So it's going to look different than the 500 or the 1,500. And maybe we'll just look at short-term momentum. The top three are cyclical, which is discretionary, real estate, and staples. Those are the top three industry groups, or sectors rather, and that gives me 735 stocks. I come over here and I can do the same thing ranking on industry groups. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So now I'm working just on the top industry groups in the top sectors, 189 stocks. Now I come in here and I put my $5 and 500,000 share filters on. Got 114 stocks. I can look at that real quick. I'll just sort them by short-term momentum and see if anything looks, all right, here's Royal Caribbean, I like. Prologis looks just like the other REIT, doesn't it? What does it pay for a dividend? 3.65. When do people buy REITs? When the market's getting weak. Lowe's has got earnings tomorrow. Exporting good. I go down this. This was Praveen. We missed this split. Coca-Cola Consolidated. It's a split, and it's got two dots today, and it looks a lot different and a lot better when we fix a split. PSA is another REIT, storage units, and I'll just keep going down. It's had a nice run. Floor and Decor. So this is what I'll do. Lennar, I bought it on this bar. It's holding. We'll see. It's got earnings coming up. Pepsi. Not buying it yet. Not a cheap stock. But you got a flag, and this may turn into a high tight flag, and it might give you a breakout opportunity. 5 below. I've never shopped there. Sideways move it to trade down to the 50 and a breakout. Kind of interesting to me. So I might go through the list like that. Some days I'm going to come in and say, screw the sectors. Let's put all the industry groups in. Let's just look at momentum, what worked today, and go top 10. 1, 2, 3. I still got my filters in, so there's 94. So I might do the same thing and go down and look at the list here. You'll find a lot of, but not 100% overlap. Or I might have days where it's like, I'm bored. I don't want to do that. I just want to find the cocaine, the big stimulating stocks. Mini charts would be great. Oh boy, but could I get all my indicators in a mini chart? You're talking about if I hover over making a mini chart. I could see that being good. Okay. Let's play around a little bit more. Okay. I mean, some of these are way too big. I mean, because I played around. All I got to do is turn the program off and on. We reset everything, but I don't want to do that right now. So let's say I'm in the impulse. I've got my 3,600 stocks. There are lots of things that I could do. We built our scans into here. Let me show you 4 different scans. The top 1, 2, 3, 4 are not scans per se. They are to find types of stocks. Pullback and uptrends, all of them in this list will have a blue here, and it flipped from red to blue within 9 bars. Blue and flipped. Blue and flipped within 9 bars. Those aren't the best ideas, the best options, but we didn't have a minimum of weekly bars. Weekly with a flip. Long-term uptrend, recent flip. And we used 9. I wish there was a way to make that customizable. I'm sure someday there will. That's pullback and uptrends. Maybe we want the opposite. We want to find stocks in a downtrend that have retraced. So the definition here is there had to be an uptrend. There wasn't much here. And it's a cheap stock. That's a horrible one to look at. Let's look at FN. So here was your you're flipped from blue to red on the short term, and you're in a red. I'd rather see a longer downtrend, which we're not going to find any easily in this market because this market's been such a positive market. Um, Again, here's a stock that of late's been in a downtrend. Here was a little bit of a retracement, but it wasn't in a downtrend yet. This retracements and downtrend works really good when the market's been downtrending. In case you forgot, the market's not been in a downtrend. So most of the stocks are not going to look great if I'm scanning for downtrends. Bottom fishing, these are stocks that have sold off a lot on the daily and the weekly. So they've come down a lot from where they were. And it's going to look different in all of them. These are beaten up stocks. They're not leaders, but they might be having some interesting things going on. I might look at bottom fishing and look at 4 dots, elevator guy. Well, is that interesting? I don't know. Um, yeah, maybe you find something early on. Not my favorite. And then the other is rockets, which we probably killed most of the rockets today. Rockets are this, straight up. We love these patterns. Now, this one's dead, not anymore. But most of these should be in pretty significant uptrends. Um, so if I want to find leaders to build my leaders list, I might look at my rockets. So we're defining the pattern of the stock. It's not a buy sell signal. Then we have 2-day momentum up, momentum down. This has been my go-to. I better put price and volume on it, make it easy on me. This has been my go-to in this bull market. ARX, they're all IPOs today, pretty much. YMAT, yeah, great move. Here's your 2 momentum dots, but an MH McGraw-Hill, which must have been a release of an IPO. That just tells you how bad the market was today, because typically you see some great leaders there. For example, over the weekend, we looked at First Solar, which I think made that list. It wasn't First Solar, was it Jake? ARY. You may have to go back and look at my video from Sunday. I can't remember everything. But typically, this has been a great scan to find longs. Now, I might want to go in and scan 2-day momentum down. Probably would want a higher price if I was shorting. And only one as a breakdown. Well, that's interesting. Here's a stock that was basing and didn't break out. It broke down on big volume. So I use the scanners to make my life easy. And I built in a number of scanners, EMS cross up, down, CPR, buy, sell, and then looking for stocks that had a weekly bullish or bearish reversal. And same thing, just use it to narrow down your um, your universe. Weekly turn down should be last week's close. Okay, and let's rank them by down dots. Oracle. So this one had a weekly reversal and today it broke down. Now, would I short something right above the 50? Absolutely not. A breakdown of the 50 and a retest? Absolutely yes. Broadcom, I'm finding breakdowns. I'm not necessarily finding great shorting candidates yet, but they may turn out to be. They're pulling into support. So different scans, different setups. And then I have filters of price and volume above the 200. If I want to only look at uptrends, I'll put the weekly bongo up. Relative strength rank, I only want to look at things that are high relative strength. The multi-time frame CPR buy, good price and good volume. So these are stocks that have been good actors. And none of these should be horrible looking charts and downtrends because these are all high relative strength stocks. This one is, I guess short term, maybe it's turned up, but just different ways to narrow the list. So I have shown you pretty much everything that I do with the program. I know this is getting longer than any of us thought it would be, except they always do. I've answered questions as we went. Praveed is here with us. Any additional questions that you have for me that I haven't answered? And then if you stick around, I'll talk a little bit about where we're going. Remember, everybody in YouTube land who has questions are expecting you to ask them for them. Adding expected moves. So we were going to add options, and we're looking at different options data sources now. So all the expected move is I always mix up straddles and strangles because I don't trade either of them. It's just the price of the 1 week or the 1 month, however long you want to look at it, of what's it cost buying a call and buying a put at the same strike price. Um, yeah, I think adding an expected move cone would be interesting. So Praveen can put it on his list. Hourly charts, I got them. Minute charts, I got them. You see this one, it's hard to see. Somebody wanted, let's say I want to see 4 hour bars, 2, 3, 4. Go to hour, going to take a few seconds because I've been dormant. And it should load 4 hour bars. Okay. If I want 1 hour bars, 2, 1, I don't know if I have to flip it out to go there, but I set the 1, I should get 1 hourly bars coming. Kind of looks like 4 hourly bars, but it should be 1 hourly bars. You set, and I don't know if I have to reset something after we run the first one. So there's a way to control the number of hours or minutes. You want 15-minute charts? And I don't do this, and you may have to hit, maybe you got to hit enter after you put it in because that's what I just did. You can get 15-minute charts. Um, so yes, we have the ability to intraday charts on anything that we have. Not what I do. And I guess we can get 15-day charts too, but I don't know what I would do with that. All right, so you do hit the enter key, it takes you back to your next setup. All right, let me show you where we're going. Um, I should have checked to see if he updated it. Let me look at that real quick. Nope. Okay. So hopefully this is going to open. It's in a different environment. It's the staging environment. And I'll show you some of the things that we did. I wanted to be able to identify stocks that are within certain amounts of moving averages. So, and I don't know if these are working or not working. I think they're working. I want to find stocks that have pulled down. Again, I don't know if it's working or not. We're going to find out the hard way to the 50-day moving average to find support. And let's look at, it's got to be within X percent of the 50. And we were playing around. There's the 50. It's pulled down to the 50. That's not a good one to look at. So one of the things we wanted to do was to build it in so I could add to my scans. Do that. So compressed, but I'm not looking for good charts. I'm just looking for closes coming down to the 50 from above and being within a certain percentage. So we're looking at scans to be able to add to your scans to find stocks pulling into moving averages. We're looking at a scan to look at stocks that today crossed, I don't know if this is turned on, above or below their chandelier stop. Let me pull that out. Let's go back to that. There's a good chance that this isn't activated, but I just wanted, let me look down below. Again, I'm in a beta version. So we'll have, and why? Because I found that this is actually not a bad buy sell signal. Yeah, so it's not turned on yet. So that we're building that in. I've got another trading system, which we're calling dynamic system long and short. Um, it's an interesting system, I'll put it that way, that stands by its own. These are all coming. Um, as I told you, going to ratio charts. Um, make your own ratio charts, change the time frame on the ratio charts is coming. Um, from an indicators perspective, we keep adding some you have, some you don't have. So we got a bunch more indicators that are coming. Our interpretation of relative rotation graphs, ours. Praveen's interpretation, power trend, something that's popular on IBD and their videos. We've built that in already. So there's a number VWAPs. Pick your VWAP. When do you want it to anchor? A lot of customization allowed on the VWAPs will be built in. So there are a lot of things that we are working on for customization. And what I can't wait to release is our first outside educators add-on. And, you know, he has to give permission to launch it. But I'm really good friends with this guy named John Person. And in my mind, he is one of the best traders out there, inventor of trading systems, and anybody that's got his stuff in TradeStation. In the time that I've been talking, I've already loaded up 3,600 stocks, all of his singles for daily, weekly, and monthly. How long would that take? Oh, wait, radar screen would die if you put more than 400 in. That's 3,600. And we are in the process of building. Yeah, hitting the return, Tom. I just figured out all of his scans will be built in. Why? Because I want to make my life easy. All right, weekly HCDs will all be built in. So he's got to give permission to release it. He controls pricing and availability, but I am so excited to move off of just my stuff and bring in somebody who I respect, whose stuff I bought in TradeStation when his son Johnny was a young kid out of college, and he was working for John as a salesperson in like 2008 or 9, and he now has his own daughter going to college, the kid. So I've had this stuff forever. So all right, that's coming. That is not included in your base price. That will be a separate add-on as it is in every other software platform. So that's kind of where we're at. We're definitely at the point in time where we're open to suggestions. Some of them today made a lot of sense to me. I don't know how hard it would be for Praveen to put on this chart here, the JAS layout, what the time of the last update was, what the time of the last update was here. If I'm looking at the buckets, I know it's going to update when I switch to it, and it's going to fill up real time during the day. I know I can update it, but it'd be nice to see what the time was. And again, I don't know if it's a major lift or not, and I defer that. I think the mini charts is interesting. You know, the idea that rather than having to open up every chart, you could see a little price and volume chart on everything once I hovered over it. Again, don't know what the capability of our platform is. Much of it's programmed from scratch. A lot of it are tools that you buy that are developer tools. And again, I couldn't program how to play tic-tac-toe, but it's stuff that Praveen has done. Changing cursor color, okay. Praveen, that seems like an easy thing. We need to have a configuration file where you can set that up. Change cursor file. So you can, nice to have a CSV download a scan result. Yep, we've talked about that already, Praveen and I. So it would be nice if you could go here, right click, and not just add to what list. Oh, by the way, I forgot. This doesn't exist today. Everybody's asked me, how do I add to different lists? You can pick what list you want to put it in. How cool is that? So I have Praveen's picks. So let's say I want to Take those. They should now be in Praveen's picks. Let's see if it worked. Oh, I already had some there, so you can't tell which ones I just added. Or unless those were all, you didn't pay attention, maybe that many were clicked on. So that's another new feature. So yeah, we'll have John stuff before the meeting. I think he'll want to have it at his meeting. All right, guys, I appreciate you being here for my typical 2 hour plus marathon. Those that own my program, everyone here has either been to my live meetings or supported me with buying stuff, just coming to my videos. I appreciate it. Sagar, you're a legend. Appreciate you being here. A trader and a programmer at the same time. I like trading, but like I said, not the programming. I can't. But appreciate everybody. And for those out in YouTube land, if you have any questions, Market MRI Pro at gmail.com, and you all have a great night. So thanks everybody. I hope that